Part 1. The Land of Hellas. Mountains, Seas, and Early Settlements. Greece, or Hellas as its people called it, was a land of mountains and islands. Jagged peaks divided valleys into small pockets where villages clung to the soil and grew into independent city-states. The Aegean Sea stretched like a silver mirror, dotted with islands, inviting sailors to journey outward. Here, geography shaped destiny. The Greeks were never one people under one king, but many, bound by language, gods, and stories. Farmers tended olives and vines on rocky hillsides. Shepherds led flocks through narrow passes, and fishermen cast nets into the deep. From their harbors, Greeks sailed to Egypt, Anatolia, and beyond, carrying wine, pottery, and ideas. It was a land both harsh and beautiful, a place that demanded resilience and inspired imagination. Part 2. The Age of Myths, Zeus, Hera, and the Olympian gods. Before history, the Greeks told stories. They spoke of Gaia, the earth, and Uranus, the sky. They told how the Titans rose and how Cronus devoured his children, only to be overthrown by his son, Zeus. Upon Mount Olympus, the gods reigned. Zeus, king of thunder, Hera, his queen, Athena, born from his head in armor, Apollo, radiant with the light of prophecy and music, Artemis, huntress of the wild, Poseidon, lord of the sea, Hades, ruler of the underworld. The gods were not distant. They quarreled, loved, deceived, and punished, reflecting the passions of men. In every storm, every harvest, every victory, the Greeks saw their will. To honor them, they built temples, offered sacrifices, and held festivals of music, games, and ritual. Myth was not just story, it was truth woven into daily life. Part 3. Heroes and Epics, Homer, the Iliad, and the Odyssey. From these myths came heroes, larger than life, yet deeply human. Their tales were sung by bards and at last written by Homer, whose epics shaped Greece forever. The Iliad told of the Trojan War, of Achilles, swift and wrathful, of Hector, noble defender, of Helen, whose beauty launched 1,000 ships. It spoke of fate and rage, of gods meddling in the affairs of men. The Odyssey told of Odysseus, who wandered for years across strange seas, facing cyclops, sirens, and enchantresses before returning home to Ithaca. His journey was not only across waters, but through the trials of the human soul. These epics were not just entertainment. They were guides to virtue and folly, courage and pride, the lessons of men and gods sung beneath the stars. Part 4. The Age of Heroes, Heracles, Perseus, and Theseus. Beyond Homer's epics, countless heroes lived in Greek memory. There was Heracles, son of Zeus, who bore the labors of strength, slaying the Nemean lion, capturing the golden hind, cleaning the Augean stables, and many more. His trials symbolized endurance against impossible odds. There was Perseus, who cut off the head of Medusa, the Gorgon with serpents for hair, whose gaze turned men to stone. There was Theseus, who entered the labyrinth of Crete, facing the Minotaur, half man, half bull, and slew it, guided by the thread of Ariadne. These heroes were not flawless. They erred, they suffered. But in them the Greeks saw courage, cunning, and destiny. Their stories lived in temples, in plays, in whispered prayers of those who sought strength. Part 5. The Rise of the Polis, Athens and Sparta, and the Greek Way of Life. As centuries passed, Greece left behind the age of myths and entered the age of cities. The polis, the city-state, became the heart of Greek life. In Athens, democracy was born. Citizens gathered in assembly to vote, to debate, to decide laws together. They celebrated theater, philosophy, and the arts, building a society that valued speech as much as spear. In Sparta, a different way of life prevailed. Boys were trained as warriors from youth, living in barracks, bound by discipline and strength. Their women held unusual freedom, managing estates and speaking boldly, while their men fought for the state above all else. Other cities flourished too, Corinth with trade, Thebes with warriors. But Athens and Sparta shone brightest, two stars guiding Greece in different directions. The Greeks were rivals, but also kin. They met in festivals, like the Olympic Games, held every 4 years in honor of Zeus, where athletes ran, wrestled, and competed beneath the gaze of the gods. Part 6. War with Persia, Marathon, Thermopylae, and Salamis. Beyond their mountains and seas lay empires vast and powerful, none greater than Persia. In the 5th century BCE, Persia sought to subdue the small cities of Greece, but the Greeks resisted. At Marathon, outnumbered, Athenians charged the Persians and won a stunning victory. A messenger ran back to Athens to deliver the news, the origin of the Marathon race. Years later, at Thermopylae, King Leonidas of Sparta stood with 300 warriors against a host beyond counting. Though they fell, their defiance inspired Greece. At sea, the Athenians triumphed at Salamis, luring the Persian fleet into narrow straits and crushing them. United, the Greeks turned back the might of an empire, proving that courage and cunning could overcome vast power. These wars shaped Greek identity, free cities standing against tyranny, united by gods, heroes, and the love of their land.
Part 7. Athens and the Golden Age, Heracles, Drama, and Philosophy. After the Persian Wars, Athens entered its greatest age. Under the statesman Pericles, democracy flourished, and the city adorned itself with temples and theaters. Upon the Acropolis, the Parthenon rose, its marble columns gleaming in the sun, a tribute to Athena, goddess of wisdom. Athenians loved the arts. Playwrights like Aeschylus, Sophocles, and Euripides filled theaters with tragedies and dramas that asked timeless questions of fate and justice. Aristophanes, with sharp comedy, mocked generals and politicians alike. Philosophers walked the streets, debating truth, virtue, and the soul. Sculptors carved statues of divine beauty, while citizens gathered to listen, to argue, to vote. Athens became the shining jewel of Greece, a beacon of culture and ideas, though its brilliance would also sow envy and strife. Part 8. Sparta and the Peloponnesian War. Sparta, proud and wary, looked upon Athens' growing power with suspicion. So began the Peloponnesian War, a struggle that pitted Greek against Greek. For nearly 30 decades, Athens and Sparta fought, at sea, on land, in sieges and shifting alliances. Athens' navy ruled the waves, while Spartans' warriors dominated the fields. The war drained resources, shattered unity, and brought plague and famine. At last, with the help of Persia, Sparta triumphed. Athens surrendered, its walls torn down, its empire lost. Yet Sparta, too, soon weakened, and Greece lay divided, vulnerable to new powers rising beyond its borders. Part 9. Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. Wisdom of the Greeks. Even in times of war, Greek thought soared. In Athens, the philosopher Socrates wandered the streets, questioning merchants and generals, asking, "What is justice? What is virtue?" His method of relentless inquiry unsettled many, and at last he was condemned, drinking poison in defense of truth. His student Plato founded the Academy, envisioning a republic guided by wisdom and the ideal of forms. Aristotle, in turn, studied all things, logic, biology, ethics, politics, and taught a young Macedonian prince who would one day change the world. These thinkers left Greece not only with monuments of stone, but monuments of the mind, ideas that still shape our world. Part 10. The Rise of Macedonia. Philip II unites the Greeks. In the north, a new power gathered strength, Macedonia. Once dismissed as rustic and crude, under Philip II it forged a formidable army. With long spears called sarissas, disciplined ranks, and clever strategy, Philip crushed the divided Greek states. At the Battle of Chaeronea in 338 BCE, Athens and Thebes fell before him. For the first time, Greece stood united, though not by choice, under Macedonian rule. Philip dreamed of leading the Greeks against Persia, but before his vision could unfold, he was struck down by an assassin. His son would inherit his dream. Part 11. Alexander the Great. Conquests to the Edge of the World. That son was Alexander, who became king at 20. Taught by Aristotle, trained in war from youth, Alexander was bold, brilliant, and relentless. He crossed into Asia, leading Greeks against Persia. At Granicus, Issus, and Gaugamela, he shattered the Persian armies and pursued Darius III across his empire. From Asia Minor to Egypt, from Babylon to the mountains of India, Alexander marched, his soldiers following him into lands unknown. He founded cities named Alexandria, spreading Greek culture across the world. Yet he also honored local traditions, wearing Persian robes, adopting Eastern customs, and blending cultures. But at 32, in Babylon, Alexander fell ill and died. His empire, vast as the horizon, fractured among his generals. Yet his legend never faded, the boy who became a god in the eyes of many. Part 12. The Legacy of Greece. Philosophy, Democracy, and Myth Eternal. Though empires passed, Greece left behind treasures greater than conquest. Democracy, born in Athens, became an ideal for ages to come. Philosophy, from Socrates to Aristotle, laid the foundations of reason and science. The myths of Zeus, Athena, and Achilles still speak to the human heart. Greek art, drama, and architecture inspired Rome, the Renaissance, and the modern world. Their stories, carved in marble and sung in verse, remain eternal. Greece was not one empire, but a spirit of inquiry, of freedom, of beauty. From myths of gods to the conquests of Alexander, from the theaters of Athens to the wisdom of philosophers, Greece gave the world a legacy that endures forever.